The signal from the void. The research vessel Luminous Seeker drifted silently through the void, emergency lights casting an eerie violet glow across its damaged hull. Inside, Chief Researcher Talon Mev stared at the ship's failing systems with all three of his ocular organs. The crystalline growths along his shoulders dimmed as his species equivalent of despair washed over him. Life support is down to 17% capacity, announced Vela Red, his second in command. Her tendrils waved anxiously above her head crest. The impact with the gravity anomaly damaged our propulsion beyond repair. We can't make it home. The Luminous Seeker had ventured farther from Mariac space than any previous expedition. Their mission to study the unusual stellar formations in this uncharted sector had been proceeding perfectly until they encountered the unexpected gravitational distortion. Now they were stranded in the emptiness between star systems, their sophisticated vessel reduced to a slowly failing life raft. "How long will the emergency beacon last?" Talon asked, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that indicated severe stress. "The power cells will sustain it for approximately 40 cycles," answered Orth, their communications specialist. "But it's irrelevant. We're too far from established trade routes or Mariac's outposts. No one will hear us." Talon moved to the central console, his elongated fingers dancing across holographic controls. "We must try. Modify the signal to broadcast on all frequencies, including the primitive bands. I want our message reaching as far as possible. Even if someone detects it, who would come?" Vela's question hung in the recycled air. "The galactic consortium races all avoid this sector due to its instability. The only species rumored to traverse these parts are..." "Irrelevant," Talon interrupted. "We have 32 crew members who deserve every chance at survival. Send the signal." As the modified distress beacon began pulsing into the darkness, none of the Mariacs held real hope. Their civilization, though ancient and technologically advanced, had always prioritized caution and careful expansion. The void between stars remained, in their cultural consciousness, a place of danger and isolation. Little did they know that some species thrived on danger. Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Expeditionary Vessel Horizon was enjoying her synthetic coffee when the alert sounded. "Commander, to the bridge," came the voice of her XO, Lieutenant Commander Jackson Way. 4 minutes later, Elena strode onto the bridge, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, eyes alert despite having been woken from her rest cycle. "Report," she ordered, sliding into the command chair. We gestured to the communications officer. Lieutenant Park picked up a distress signal on the long-range array. "It's not human, and it's not in any language we recognize, but the universal distress pattern is unmistakable." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Location: approximately 2.3 light days from our position, Commander," answered Lieutenant Park. "In the direction of the stellar nursery we were planning to survey next week." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had been exploring space for less than a century. First contact with alien life had occurred just 27 years ago, and Earth was still considered a newcomer to the galactic community, barely tolerated by some of the older spacefaring civilizations who viewed humans as unpredictable and dangerously adaptive. "Play the signal," Elena ordered. The sound that filled the bridge was haunting, a series of modulated tones that rose and fell in patterns too regular to be natural phenomena. "Analysis?" Elena asked. "Definitely artificial," confirmed Chief Science Officer Dr. Imani Okafor, her fingers dancing across her console. "The mathematical structures in the signal suggest a developed civilization, likely more advanced than ours. But there's something else." "What is it, Doctor?" "The signal is deteriorating. Not from distance or interference. The coherence is degrading at source. Whatever's broadcasting, this is failing." Elena leaned forward. "So someone's out there. Their systems are failing, and they need help." "That appears to be the case, Commander," Dr. Okafor agreed. Lieutenant Wei cleared his throat. "Commander, I should point out that we have no established protocols for this situation. First contact scenarios are supposed to be carefully managed through official diplomatic channels. Answering an alien distress call without authorization could violate a dozen regulations. Elena tapped her fingers on the armrest of her command chair. Humanity's position in the galactic community was precarious. The older spacefaring species viewed Earth with suspicion, a planet whose inhabitants had evolved on what they classified as a death world, with high gravity, extreme temperature variations, and dangerous levels of ambient radiation. Humans were seen as unnervingly resilient, adaptable to conditions that would kill most other sentient races, and possessing disconcerting physical capabilities. But humans also couldn't ignore a cry for help. When did Earth join the Galactic Consortium? Elena asked, seemingly changing the subject. We looked confused. 12 years ago, Commander. And how many rescue operations have consortium vessels conducted in proximity to Earth space during that time? 17 documented instances, ma'am. Elena nodded. And in how many of those instances did Earth vessels participate? None, Commander. The consortium has consistently declined our offers of assistance, citing protocols and compatibility issues. Elena stood, her decision made. Well, it seems we have an opportunity to show the galactic community what humans bring to the table. Plot a course to the source of that signal, maximum safe velocity. Inform medical to prepare for potentially non-human patients. Engineering should review our adaptive docking procedures. Wei hesitated. Commander, without knowing who we're dealing with. Someone needs help. XO. Elena interrupted firmly. I don't need to know what they look like to know that much. The horizon was built to explore, to learn, and to represent the best of humanity. We don't ignore distress calls. As the bridge crew leaped into action, Elena stared at the view screen showing the distant stars. Humanity had fought long and hard to overcome its violent past, to unite its fractious nations, and to reach for the stars with a commitment to peace and cooperation. But they had never forgotten the lessons of their homeworld. That survival sometimes required action in the face of uncertainty, and that compassion demanded courage. The horizon accelerated toward the signal, its powerful engines pushing it to velocities that would have seemed impossible to human engineers just decades earlier. On the luminous seeker, Talon Mev had ordered most systems shut down to preserve life support. The Mariax crew gathered in the central chamber, their crystalline growths dimmed to conserve energy. Their species' natural bioluminescence, normally a source of communication and beauty, now represented precious calories they couldn't afford to waste. 17 cycles since we began broadcasting, Velaret reported quietly. No response. Talon didn't answer. What was there to say? The void remained silent, indifferent to their plight. Until it wasn't. Energy signature detected. Orth suddenly called out, his voice breaking the somber atmosphere, moving toward our position at high velocity. The chamber erupted in a flurry of activity as the Mariacs rushed to their stations, hope renewing their energy. Configuration. Talon demanded. Unknown. Orth replied, his tendrils quivering with excitement and fear. It doesn't match any Mariacs or consortium design. It's massive, chief researcher, and fast. Impossibly fast for its mass. Velaret checked her own instruments. It will reach our position in approximately 7 units. 7 units, barely enough time to prepare. Talon felt the pressure of leadership weighing on him. Restore power to communications and external sensors. We need to establish contact. As they waited, Orth continued analyzing the approaching vessel. Its energy emissions are unusual. High-output fusion, I think, but configured differently than our understanding of such technology. And there are radiation signatures our sensors can't even classify. Weapons? Talon asked, the harmonic fear evident in his voice. Definitely armed, Orth confirmed. Heavily. The minutes ticked by intense silence until finally, Orth announced, they're hailing us. Audio and visual transmission. Talon straightened his posture. Put it through. The communication display flickered to life, and the Mariacs found themselves staring at something from their worst nightmares, a bipedal creature with only 2 eyes, covered in a tight-fitting artificial skin, displaying an alarming number of teeth in what they would later learn was a smile. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Expeditionary Vessel Horizon," the creature said, its words automatically converted to approximations by the luminous seeker's translation matrix. "We received your distress signal. We're here to help." Talon felt his heart pounding in his thoracic cavity. Humans. They'd all heard the rumors. Deathworlders who had emerged from their gravity well with alarming speed, whose physical capabilities and adaptability terrified the more established species. Beings who could survive radiation, pressure, and chemical exposures that would kill a Mariax instantly. And now they were here, answering a call that no one was supposed to hear, offering help that no one else would provide. "We are grateful for your response," Talon replied cautiously. "I am Chief Researcher Talon Mev of the Mariax scientific vessel Luminous Seeker. Our systems are critically damaged, and our life support is failing." The human's expression changed, its facial muscles contracting in what the Mariax couldn't interpret. "Understood, Chief Researcher. We're detecting your vessel's condition now. Our scans indicate you have approximately 12 hours of life support remaining at current consumption rates. Is that assessment accurate?" Talon exchanged glances with Velaret. The human ship had determined their status in seconds. From a distance, their technology was more advanced than rumored. "Yes," he confirmed, "though we've taken measures to extend that time. We can do better than extending it," Commander Reyes replied. "The Horizon has adaptive docking capabilities. With your permission, we'd like to establish a hard seal with your vessel, provide emergency power, and bring our engineering teams aboard to assess repairs." Hope and fear battled within Talon. To allow unknown aliens, Deathworlders, no less, onto their vessel was unprecedented. But to refuse meant certain death. "There is another concern," Talon said hesitantly. "We were not merely damaged by a gravitational anomaly. We believe we are being hunted." The human's expression changed again, this time to something sharper, more focused. "Hunted? By whom?" "We detected energy signatures consistent with Kryvax vessels shortly before the anomaly struck us. We believe they may have been responsible." The human commander's reaction was not what Talon expected. Instead of fear or hesitation, Commander Reyes merely nodded, as if being hunted by the galaxy's most notorious predatory species was a minor complication. "Understood," she said. "In that case, we should move quickly. We're beginning our approach now. Please stand by for docking procedures." As the communication ended, Velaret turned to Talon. "Can we trust them?" "The humans." Talon stared at the external view, showing the massive human vessel approaching, sleek and powerful, with visible weapon mounts and propulsion systems that made the Luminous Seeker look primitive by comparison. "We have little choice," he answered. "But consider this. Of all the species in the galaxy, perhaps the only ones who wouldn't fear the Kryvax would be those who evolved on a world more dangerous than the Kryvax themselves." Through the viewport, they watched as the human ship grew larger, a predator from a death world coming not to hunt, but to save. Deathworlders to the rescue. The docking procedure was a marvel of engineering. The Horizon's adaptive seal extended toward the Luminous Seeker, analyzing the alien vessel's whole composition in real time and adjusting its molecular structure to create a perfect hermetic bond. The Mariacs watched in stunned silence as the impossible became reality before their eyes. When the airlock opened, Chief Researcher Talon Mev and his senior staff stood ready to greet their rescuers. Nothing in their studies of interspecies relations had prepared them for the sight of humans in the flesh. Commander Elena Reyes led a team of 6 through the airlock. They wore what appeared to be standard uniforms rather than protective gear, though each carried a compact device on their belt that Talon suspected might be monitoring the environment. The humans moved with a fluid grace that seemed at odds with their solid frames, and their expressions were open and alert. "Chief Researcher," Commander Reyes greeted, inclining her head slightly. "Thank you for allowing us aboard. This is my chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Sanjay Patel, and my chief medical officer, Dr. Maria Chen. The others are specialists from their departments." Talon performed the Myriax greeting gesture, his tendrils forming a respectful pattern. "We are grateful for your assistance, Commander. Though I must admit, we are surprised. Humans do not often venture this far from your territories. Exploration is in our nature," Reyes replied with a smile, "as is lending a hand, or whatever appendage applies, when someone's in trouble." The engineering team moved with practiced efficiency, interfacing their equipment with the Myriax systems after brief consultations with the alien scientists. Within minutes, power from the horizon began flowing into the luminous seeker's critical systems. "Life support stabilize," announced Vela Rhett, her crystalline growths brightening with relief. Lieutenant Commander Patel was examining the propulsion system's diagnostic display. "Your gravitational drive suffered major damage," he observed. "The primary coils are completely fused, and the containment field generators are beyond repair with the materials you have on board." "Can you repair it?" Talon asked. Patil exchanged glances with Commander Reyes. "Not exactly," he admitted. "Your drive technology is different from ours, more elegant in some ways, but we don't have compatible replacement parts. However, we can install a temporary human-designed propulsion system that will get you moving again. It won't be as efficient as your original drive, but it will get you home." "That would be—" Talon searched for the appropriate word. "Miraculous." Dr. Chen had been scanning the Myriax crew with a handheld device. "Your physiology is fascinating," she said. "Crystalline structures integrated with organic tissues, bioluminescent communication capabilities. I notice some of your crew are showing signs of stress and minor radiation exposure. Our shielding was compromised during the incident," Talon explained. "We can help with that," Dr. Chen assured him. "Our medical nanites can be programmed to repair cellular damage in most carbon-based life forms. With your permission, I'd like to adapt some for your crew." As the human teams worked, Talon and Commander Reyes moved to the Luminous Seeker's bridge to discuss their situation more privately. "You mentioned being hunted," Reyes said, her tone serious. "By the Kryvax. Can you tell me more about them?" Talon's crystalline structures dimmed slightly. "The Kryvax are a predatory species from a high-radiation, low-gravity world. They evolved as pack hunters and maintained that mentality as they developed spacefaring technology. They consider most other sentient species as potential prey or rivals. The Galactic Consortium has established treaties with them, but the Kryvax frequently violate boundaries when they believe they can do so without consequences, and they attacked you unprovoked. We believe they created the gravitational anomaly that damaged our ship," Talon explained. "It matches their known tactics. They disable prey, then wait for life support to fail before boarding to collect specimens and technology." Reyes frowned. "So they could still be out there, waiting." "Almost certainly." The human commander's reaction was not fear, but a calculating expression that reminded Talon that humans, too, had evolved as predators. "How many vessels would they typically employ for a hunt like this?" 3 to 5, Talon answered. "A primary hunter and several flankers." Reyes nodded. "Lieutenant Park," she called over her communicator, "initiate long-range passive scans, pattern search algorithm Theta 9. Look for anything lurking within half a light day." She turned back to Talon. "We'll find them before they find us." Within the hour, the Horizon's advanced sensors had located 3 Kryvax vessels, positioned strategically around the area, maintaining a subtle watch on the disabled Myriax ship. When presented with this information in the newly established Joint Command Center, Talon felt his hope diminishing. 3 hunter vessels," he said quietly. "Even with your impressive ship, Commander, the odds are—" "Actually," interrupted Lieutenant Wei, who had joined them from the Horizon, "we may have an advantage they don't expect." Reyes nodded for him to continue. "The Kryvax are expecting a disabled Myriax vessel," Wei explained. "They're not expecting the human warship. More importantly, they don't know we've detected them. "What are you suggesting?" Talon asked. Commander Rice leaned forward. "The Kryvax hunt in packs, using coordinated attacks. But they've never hunted humans before. We evolved on a world where sometimes the smallest creatures are the most dangerous. Sometimes the best defense is to strike first." Talon's tendrils writhed in alarm. "You propose to attack the Kryvax. Their technology is advanced," Rise acknowledged, "but different from ours. Earth developed along a unique technological path, driven by our particular environmental challenges. The Kryvax won't be familiar with our weapon systems or tactics." Over the next several hours, the combined human and Myriax teams developed a plan. The Horizon's engineering crew completed their temporary repairs to the Luminous Seeker's propulsion systems, while human tactical officers briefed the Myriax on what was to come. "The key," Lieutenant Wei explained to the gathered crew members of both vessels, "is the element of surprise. The Kryvax believe they're the hunters. We're going to show them what it's like to be the prey." Talon watched in astonishment as the humans moved with coordinated precision, their actions betraying a species comfortable with conflict in a way the peaceful Myriax could never be. Yet these fearsome Deathworlders were using their predatory instincts not to conquer or destroy, but to protect. "We're ready, Commander," reported Lieutenant Commander Patel. Reyes nodded. "Begin Operation Mongoose." The Luminous Seeker, now powered by human technology, began moving slowly away from its position, emitting the electromagnetic signature of a vessel in the final stages of life support failure, a tempting target for the waiting Kryvax. Meanwhile, the Horizon detached and moved to a position hidden by the radiation shadow of a nearby stellar dust cloud. It didn't take long for the Kryvax to respond. One of their vessels, the largest, began accelerating toward the seemingly helpless Myriax ship. "They've taken the bait," Lieutenant Park announced. "The other two are maintaining position, but alert." "As expected," Rise replied calmly. "Tactical. Prepare disruptors and kinetic packages. On my mark." The tension on the bridge was palpable as they watched the Kryvax vessel approach the Luminous Seeker. Talon, who had insisted on remaining aboard the Horizon to observe, felt his respiratory rate increasing. "Now," Rise commanded. The Horizon erupted from its hiding place, its engines pushing the vessel to accelerations that would have killed most non-human crews without their advanced inertial dampening systems. The Kryvax hunter, caught completely by surprise, attempted to bring its weapons to bear, but the human ship was moving too fast, executing maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. The first salvo from the Horizon wasn't designed to destroy but to disable. Targeted electromagnetic pulses washed over the Kryvax vessel, temporarily disrupting its systems. Before it could recover, kinetic penetrators, simple but devastatingly effective projectiles accelerated to incredible velocities, struck its propulsion nodes with surgical precision. "Target 1 disabled," reported the tactical officer. "The other two are mobilizing." "As planned," Rise replied. Lieutenant Patel signaled the Seeker to begin Phase 2. The Luminous Seeker, with its hybrid human Myriax systems, suddenly accelerated in a burst of speed that must have shocked the remaining Kryvax vessels. Instead of fleeing, however, it moved directly toward one of them in what appeared to be a suicide run. The confused Kryvax ship attempted to evade, exactly as the humans had predicted. It maneuvered directly into the path of a spread of automated drones launched minutes earlier by the Horizon. The drones attached themselves to the Kryvax hull and began emitting signals that mimicked the neural patterns of Earth's most feared predators, a psychological weapon designed to confuse and terrify. Meanwhile, the Horizon engaged the third Kryvax vessel in a direct confrontation. The alien hunters, accustomed to overwhelming their prey with superior numbers and technology, found themselves facing an opponent that fought with unpredictable patterns and technologies they had never encountered. "They're retreating," Lieutenant Park announced with quiet satisfaction as the third Kryvax vessel disengaged and accelerated away from the battle, abandoning its disabled companions. Talon stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than 20 minutes, the humans had neutralized 2 Kryvax hunter ships and driven off the third, a feat that would have been considered impossible by the Galactic Consortium. "Now what?" he asked softly. Commander Rice turned to him. "Now we send a message. Open a channel to the disabled Kryvax vessels." When the connection was established, Rice spoke in clear, measured tones. "Kryvax vessels, this is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Expeditionary Fleet. You have attacked a peaceful scientific mission in violation of Consortium treaties. We have disabled your vessels but have chosen not to destroy them." She paused, her expression hardening. "Inform your leaders that Earth has established a protection agreement with the Myriacs. Any future aggression against their vessels or colonies will be met with the full force of the human fleet. We are transmitting coordinates for a Consortium outpost that can provide assistance. I suggest you use them." After terminating the communication, Rice turned to Talon. "Your vessel's repairs are sufficient for travel to the nearest Myriacs outpost. We'll escort you there to ensure no further incidents." "I don't know how to thank you," Talon said, his crystalline structures glowing with emotion. "You risk your vessel and your lives for strangers." Rice smiled. "That's what humans do, Chief Researcher. We look out for each other, regardless of where we come from. The galaxy can be a dangerous place. All the more reason to stand together." As the Horizon and the Luminous Seeker traveled together toward Myriac space, news of the encounter spread rapidly through Consortium channels. The humans, long regarded with suspicion and fear, were suddenly viewed in a new light, not merely as Deathworlders to be contained, but as potential protectors in a galaxy filled with threats. For the crew of the Horizon, it was simply another mission completed. They had answered a call for help, faced danger with determination, and applied the unique perspectives that had allowed humanity to survive and thrive on their challenging homeworld. And somewhere in the void, a Kryvax leader received a report that would forever change how their species viewed the bite-built creatures from that distant, high-gravity world called Earth. The hunters had, for the first time, become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be quite the same again.